everybody, and welcome back to Sessions Canceled Podcast. Trays in the Infinite stole Matt, so we have a special guest with us today, but Sessions canceled, obviously. So Grozgak Brackguard is our special guest. Why don't you introduce yourself to the cast?
Wait, what is going on?
Right, he's Grozgak Brackguard, Sundering Warg of the Core of Rift. How's you Umi's doing?
We're doing quite well, thank you. Thank you, Brad.
I just do fancy technology. There's your Warg.
So,
Got them brain boys sucking in it. Yeah, you know you plug your brain boys into big computers?
What did you just say?
I'm just saying nonsense.
Fuck just happened. I mean, Matt, that was very orky. That was very good in orky. They do say nonsense.
Yeah, just nonsense. Hi, it's
so
me, Matt. I'm playing an orc today.
Let it be known, Isaiah, me and Isaiah did not know that was coming at all.
We're gonna need a Emperor text-to-speech
are
intro
we?
for that one.
What happened?
We're in the 41st millennium. Get with the times.
What? Oh.
I don't
want to be in the 41st millennium. I'm going to be one of those losers they feed to the Emperor's chair.
You're a psyker? Congrats, my guy. You have psychic powers.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that you had to. Oh.
You have to be a psyker for that one.
I don't, whatever. I don't know.
You're more than likely to be a guardsman.
Yeah.
GG, my guy.
Yeah. At least you got a shovel. Do get a shovel.
Yeah, but he's not going to use that very well unless he's a Kriegsman. So
no.
Anyway, no. You know, as per usual,
I'm here though.
Yeah, Josh is here. Isaiah is here.
Hey.
And Matt, the ever transforming person / orc, is here.
Oi.
Yeah.
Man did not just hit us with an God damn.
I literally, like 10 minutes before we started recording, I was like, Matt, what's your fucking orc name?
I want to shout out to 40K orc name generator.
Oh my god.
What a surprise.
He even gave me a title of anything. Sundering Waaaghing of the Core's Rift.
You should have put the title in afterwards.
That's a lot of words.
It is.
Yes, it is.
What is a Waaaghing?
You're a war wrecker.
Oh, war. Ah, I see.
Yeah, Wa is war.
I'm still trying to understand the language.
Yeah, you gotta translate everything.
I also like how you said you were a brain boy.
Yep. Sam, what are we doing?
Wait,
what are we doing here, Sam?
What are we on about?
Everyone think why we're here.
What the fuck are we here for?
No, not that, Matt. Stop it. We're not going to talk about red versus blue again.
So I'm just going to go off on a limb and assume the topic today is wargaming.
Yes, today's topic is about
don't
wargaming.
act like you guessed that. You fucking knew that. Don't bullshit.
No, of course I fucking knew that. Yeah, I mean, just
don't be acting like I'm gonna guess from my excellent deductive skills. Isaiah's over here pretending like he's Sherlock Holmes.
Brett,
Meanwhile, somebody fed him the fucking script.
Brett, play the Price is Right music. Come on, tell him what his price is.
Your prize is air. You get to breathe another day.
That is a great prize in the 41st millennium. You have no idea.
that is quite a good prize.
I fucking guess.
Just nice, clean air, especially because you probably live in a hive city. Just GG, my guy. GG. You got some nice, clean air. Good for you. Let's give him a round of applause.
Do I at least get to make it to mid-level hive, or am I stuck in the underhive?
We can't keep going down this 40K thing. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, so we are going down to the lower hive. He said we're going down, so sorry, you know. Yeah. Sorry, my guy. You know, sometimes you win some, sometimes you eat raw sewage.
As long as we're not a necromunda, it should be okay. It's a lie. Okay.
Listen, the chances of necromunda are like, you know, I'm not doing that math.
All right, Sam. So,
I don't know what any of this means.
So we
any of this means.
All right, Sam.
So
Today's about
deeply lost.
wargaming. Then, did you have a specific idea in mind?
I have some questions for you all, but mostly we're going to talk about the difference between wargaming and tabletop RPGs, because they're both tabletop games. Or usually
they do both indeed occur on a tabletop.
Yes,
sometimes a virtual one, but also sometimes not.
Sometimes, yes. You know, how they've influenced each other over the years and how we can kind of
influence your mom.
We're starting off real strong with this one.
We are, yeah. No, this is... If you've gotten this far in and you haven't just glacked yourself, whew, perseverance, my friend.
So
I'm sure my mom actually listens to these, by the way.
Oh, so. Hi, Mom.
Hey, what's up?
Sorry.
How you doing, Lori?
Just call my mom Lori.
Is it?
That's not her name.
Oh, shit. That's awkward. Is it Lori?
Nice.
No, we're just going to continue before I dox my mom.
Fuck.
You ever wonder why we're here recording this podcast?
Yes, now I do. Now I'm wondering.
Yeah, that's a fucking no. My parents don't forget your name.
I don't know what. Never mind. You know what? It's fine. It's fine. I won't take this. It's fine.
Yeah, just step away from the hole. Stop digging it.
Look at that hole. Look how deep it goes, Josh.
It's very deep.
But yeah, we're going to talk about the differences between.
Right. In my defense, it is an L
tabletop.
name. I was close.
Yes.
Differences
between the two types of tabletop games, how they've influenced them, how we can use ideas from either one of them to fix some of the problems with them, and a few other things. You know, I'm sure we'll talk about random shit. At least me and Isaiah will. So I know that this is the D&D problem. The most well-known wargaming game out there is Warhammer 40k, probably followed by Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah.
So a lot of our conversations probably going to revolve around 40k and D&D, because, you know, as the faces, quote unquote, of their two respective genres of tabletop games.
Now what?
I guess that does apply, huh? They are genres.
So what would be the
I wouldn't say
Pathfinder equivalent to 40k?
They're a type of game.
They're different.
Pathfinder equivalent? Do you mean like a spin-off that,
like something like the
I think
second
Matt just means
biggest...
who's in second place.
Yeah.
Oh, I
don't know.
Second place for which games?
For wargaming.
War games.
For
Tactical war game. Yeah.
Bruh,
I don't know. It might. It's not fucking Combat Commander.
Is it just
wargaming is more niche than tabletop RPGs.
Yeah,
even
I know. That's why I'm curious.
Star Wars.
It
might be X-Wing. I think it's X-Wing.
Yeah, it's probably X-Wing. Yeah, probably.
Have you guys ever looked into X-Wing?
Yeah, a little bit.
It's really fun. Like, okay, not fun, but it's really cool.
I mean, most war games
so I can't say it's fun, but
are
like
really cool. And then you're just like, damn, that looks amazing. And then you look at the prices of things and how long it takes to play a single game, and you go, maybe in 30 years.
The last time I looked into X-Wings, we were still in college, and I remember the Arc-Wing fighter was dominating. And
that's not surprising.
I went to a hobby shop with Cardell, and somebody he knew was he was like setting up, and he's like, these fucking Arc-Wing fighters, I fucking hate these things. And I was like, oh, that's rough, bud.
Oh, there's also Blood Bowl. That's another one.
Oh yeah, Blood Bowl.
That's a Warhammer one.
That's also
Warhammer.
That's right. That's also Warhammer. Oh
yeah, but like, you know, there's also Axis and Allies.
Yeah.
That's another one. Risk. Risk is another wargaming.
Okay, hold on. Wait a minute.
Risk.
Wait a minute. Does Risk count?
It is.
Is it?
You have units, and you move them, and you roll dice.
You do. I feel like people mostly call Risk a board game. Is the weird thing about.
All right. So a war game technically isn't it a board game? Like this is all board game? Like
no. So
kind of.
So the thing is that most wargaming games are generally a like platoon-sized army. Like you don't have an actual army. It's usually like a squad, and you have them fight. Risk, however, is the strategy board game. It's like the 4X game of war games.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way, Matt. Let's put it this way. All war games are board games. Not all board games are war games.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Why do we always have to bring squares and rectangles?
Yeah, it's a square and rectangle situation again.
So, there is this really weird, or it's cool. It's a pretty cool offshoot of 40K called Titanicus, where you play Titans. And I was watching another podcast. I was watching Adeptus Ridiculous because I think they're pretty cool. And they were saying that people play Titanicus with actual models, and it's called an Armageddon match. So people will have 4-foot fucking Titans, and just like it's like a 1,000,000-point army. Like probably like a 100,000-point army, and you just like
it's a ridiculous amount. You would never be able to field it in the actual like Warhammer game.
And like everyone has control of like a Titan or some knights or something, and it's just the map. It's like a warehouse floor. That's awesome.
Crazy.
The amount of money in that room,
the amount of paint and shit you have to do, like those things are big. That's not like a small project to make one of them. It's something else, honestly.
There's a bunch of them. I'm like Dust 1947.
There's a lot. So the thing is there's a lot of them, but like Matt.
Yeah, no, I know.
Nobody's playing.
No, I know. It's a very, very neat, like you guys said, very niche. But I'm just surprised of like, Marvel Crisis Protocol. I remember going to a fucking yard sale, and one of my neighbors had a bunch of. I used to have the little Marvel figures, and I didn't know where the fuck they came from. But they now looking at these, and I'm like, oh shit, it's from this board game.
Yeah, there's a lot of figurines rather is what they like to call them. For wargaming, and you'll just be like, oh, I have no idea what this is, but I like that figurine.
Yeah, no, it was cool. I fucking had all the Marvel characters, and then no bad guys except for one. What are they called? Sentinels? X-Men, the big robots.
Yes, Sentinels. Yeah. Matt, you're supposed to be the comic book guy.
I know. I forgot what the name was for a minute there. I'm like, Sentinel sounds right, but that was the only bad guy I had.
Apparently, there's a game called Malifaux, which is pretty popular, and it seems like a medieval, not like a dungeon crawler. It just sort of seems like a medieval kill team style game, like small groups fighting in cities.
So you mean how D&D started?
Yes, but like it's like squad based, like.
Oh, you Game of Thrones nerds out there! There's a Song of Ice and Fire one.
I mean, sure. I forgot that wargaming literally started because of World War II.
Yes, that was. I was going to bring that up at some point.
I always forget about that.
Yeah, the first war game was World War II simulators, basically.
They literally, this is how they did tactics. They would just literally play war games, which is a thing that they do in 40K, by the way. They replicate that by playing Warhammer.
I think there's actually, I didn't watch the video, but there is a video of the US military playing a war game, but it's like on a giant like 3D hologram like board on the floor. It's massive. It looks so cool.
Yeah, that's hey Matt. That's literally wargaming. Like they have like several months of that in
real life.
Yeah, like I used to work with people that did that.
That's cool.
Like genuinely, I never stepped foot into the building. You're not allowed to when that's happening. Like they ramp up the security for that. But I've known people who have been in the building working when that event is going on.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it's impressive.
If I remember correctly, Gary Gygax was a big fucking nerd who liked to play a lot of the World War II wargaming stuff, which is kind of how it all started. So,
and you know what? There we go. That goes into one of my questions. How have these games influenced each other? And it's called Gary Gygax literally made D&D because
Gary was a big nerd.
Of wargaming.
He was a big nerd, and he played a lot of World War II war games. And then he also played Chainmail, which was a medieval wargaming It was basically a hack. It was basically a hack of the World War II game, from my understanding. I don't know any specifics, but as far as I'm aware, and at some point, I don't know what the impetus was or what the story was specifically, but at some point, Homeboy was like, "What if instead of the whole army, we just focused on like 4 to 6 nerds in the army, and they went into like a dungeon or something? What if we did that?"
Man, that explains a whole lot about D&D and how it originally functioned.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys know, but when the original version, like true first edition, when people talk about first edition D&D, they really mean like 1.5.
Yeah, or advanced.
True first edition was not even a complete game. You had to buy 2 other games to play the game.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah.
It
says a lot in the Art Arcana book that came out a couple years ago about like the original versions, and like Gary going to like miniature shops and like it's like, oh, how was the owlbear made? Oh, they just fused these 2 minis together and they're like, it's an owl and a bear. I'm a genius.
I'm a genius.
I'm really glad that I brought this up because I'm being informed about one of my favorite monsters.
The owlbear.
Yes.
Yeah, you had to get the wilderness survival rules.
Yeah.
And I think there was like a dungeon book or something like that. I forget specifically.
And another shout out, Matt Colville did a video, and I think he literally named all that shit in the. It's like a early running the game video.
Yeah. I had a follow-up point, and then my brain said, "No, you don't." And I went, "Oh." Anyway, continue, Seth, because I forgot.
That's okay. I'm sure it'll come around eventually.
Probably. I'll just scream Emergent in 20 minutes.
Forgot you did that.
I did. That is the thing I did. Yes.
Okay, so because we've already talked about how the history of them are connected, I guess.
God damn it! I actually just did the thing I said. The thing I was gonna say is originally, if I remember correctly, part of the intention of D&D was that you would D&D was almost like a supplement to chainmail, because part of the original intention was that you would play your D&D characters until they got to the point where they were high level or whatever, and that they would reasonably be generals, and then you would play chainmail with your D&D characters as like the commanders.
Oh, yeah.
That was part of the original plan, which makes a lot of sense when you look at even D&D now. People end up doing that in their games a lot of time by accident anyway. So like, yeah, it checks out. that was the other thought I had.
I'm
done.
Wow, my roll has been thoroughly stopped.
Well, this is awkward.
Damn, roll wasn't even slow, just stopped.
The train just fucking halted. The other train's still coming. We're all gonna die, guys. Sorry. So anyway, because we talked about how the history of wargaming affected Gary Gygax's decision making on creating D&D. I would like to talk about how these games have influenced each other. We've already gotten a great point out of the way. Unfortunately, it was kind of one of the things I was going to talk about, because I was going to talk about how mechanically they've affected each other, because we wouldn't have the whole dice roll situation if wargaming did not decide things basically through dice, because what's better for random number generating than dice? Because if you say a computer, I will actually throw you out the window. Computer random number generators are not actually random. They're usually based off of things like timestamps. Yeah, that's a little fun fact for all of you. That's why RNG manipulation is actually a thing in video games, because it's based off of like random. What's the word? It's usually based off of different variables that the game is keeping track of. But anyways, Yeah, so like mechanically, you know, they've affected each other with you know, the original way that, you know, Wargaming was played. But I feel also that they've somewhat learned from each other because, you know, as
Probably.
the games have gotten progressively older, more editions have come out, more games have come out. We've also noticed an increase of basically text. So like, you know, before we may have had cure wounds, which is, you know, you roll a d8, you heal, but now we have, you know, range, cast time, how, like all of these other effects that spells can have, you know. I can't exactly remember a unit in Warhammer that has some funky ass abilities, but I know there are a few that are like, yeah, so this thing does this thing, and if you have this person fielded, this also does that, and it does this, and it does that, and it does this.
Yeah, fucking... See, I don't play 40k regularly. I've played a few games, but like, I know Gilliman does that. Primarch Gilliman. He's got like a few really interesting things that like, it's like, oh, if you have... I'm gonna get... Someone who plays Wargames is gonna fucking kill me for this. It's like, if you have Gilliman on the field, he has like a special ability that gives all the Ultramarines around him within like a certain distance, like they gives them like more armor, or they have like or maybe their invuln gets better. Hold on. I'm gonna look up a stat sheet right now.
Master of Battle aura and 13th Primarch aura, and he has a bunch of things if your army is battle forged as well. Like a lot of these, nobility made manifest. That's what it is. That's his warlord trait. Friendly Ultramarines, infantry units, and Ultramarine biker units can perform a heroic intervention as if they were characters whilst they are in or within 6 inches of this warlord. That's what you're thinking of. So like, yeah, so a lot of these things, like a lot of this text has kind of basically evolved with both sets of games, and I'm pretty sure that because, you know, one game is testing things out, the other game goes, oh, we can do that. Now, I don't know, you know, the exact history between, you know, like 40k and D&D affecting each other, but I'm like 90% certain that like a lot of the advancements in, you know, text specifically, what did I have write down?
Mechanical advancements.
Mechanical advancements, but like the wording and clarifications. So like, you know, having tags is something that games didn't usually have back then. Like Ultramarines and then infantry, those are tags.
Yeah, we've entered a kind of a funny... We're in like a funny time period because, you know, everything sort of... Well, okay. If you want to really go back, everything stole from like, you know, chess and Go, right? If you go all the way back to like the earliest versions of tabletop games, in the sense of games that are played on a table in the vague, you know, in the broadest sense,
in the most literal sense.
Chess is a tabletop game in a very literal sense.
Yes,
but we've gotten to a kind of a funny spot where board games, war games, tabletop games, and video games all just influence each other in a circle. In a weird way. So like a video game will have an idea, and then D&D will steal that video game idea, and then Warhammer will steal it from D&D, and then some board game will use it from Warhammer, or it'll go in the other direction, or what. Like they all just...
I mean, it's usually like...
it's just so like, a weird...
I mean, a great example is just 4X games in general stole from Wargaming.
Yeah, 4X games come from Wargaming, and then 4X games have some cool ideas, and then Wargaming takes the idea from the 4X game, and like... You know, oh, now a lot of like there's war games and deck builder games that use resource mechanics that are similar to 4X strategy games. They all just chomp on each other in a kind of a funny way, where back in the day you could have pointed, be like, oh, this was taken from that thing. Yep. But nowadays it couldn't come from anywhere because everybody's just stealing from everybody else, which is not me saying it's a bad thing, but you know, it's just a thing that happens at this point.
I mean, it's kind of hard to not do it, honestly, because
it's basically
when
impossible.
something works, why try and change it? Why try to, you know, fuck around with that?
That stuff is
I mean, don't just make the same fucking thing. You know, we don't need the same game every single time.
Yeah, don't copy paste.
Looking at you, Ubisoft fucking formula.
Yes, Ubisoft, the open world game, my favorite.
Ubisoft open world game with tower to climb to discover area. Thank you very much. Love that game design.
My favorite game, Ubisoft, the open world game.
Really love it when other game companies go, you know what, we could do that too. We could do it better. And you just go, no, it's the same. Like, you haven't changed anything. You climb tower or reach tower, you discover area. That's all it is. Please stop.
Yeah. Oh shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. Damn. Something about video games. Now my train of thought. I don't know. Video games are part of the equation. Is something that I think often people kind of forget or don't think about as much when you're talking about like tabletop stuff. Yep. It's funny. There's a lot of things I'll see in even like 5e. I'll just look and be like, I feel like I know where you got that mechanical idea. I could be wrong, but it looks very similar to this one game that I played, and I don't know.
Seems pretty suspect.
That's what the kids call sus. Imposter spotted. That's sus.
I hate it.
You guys want to play Secret Hitler?
No.
I actually like that game. It is pretty fun.
Hell yeah.
Secret what?
Secret Hitler.
What?
Have you ever heard of Secret Hitler?
On Steam.
It's another lying game in the vein of Among Us.
Salem.
It's Town of Salem, yeah, but with like Hitler.
I've just never heard of that game.
Yes, Secret Hitler. One of the players is Hitler, and you shoot him.
Oh. Yep.
That is a tabletop game. There's no board per se. Well, there's kind of a board actually, but anyway, not related.
Hey, back to Crumpin.
No, very, very much so not related.
Semi-related. We're in the same realm.
Yeah, board game. Played on table. Yes,
Played on a table, not a tabletop.
No.
Table?
Yeah, that's that. See, if you don't play it on the tabletop, like you flip it over and you play it on the legs, that's a TRPG. But if you play it on the tabletop, it's a TTRPG.
What if I remove the tabletop and replace it with a high definition touchscreen?
Well, then you're playing it on a
screen top.
It's RPG.
It's a screen top RPG. Look, I'm just saying there was an actual play I watched, and they got one of those tables that has the TV built into the center. That's a touchscreen, and they played on Roll20 that way, and it's pretty fucking sick. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I literally have talked about like if I ever move back to the East Coast, that's kind of what I would want to do if we were going to play in person.
Right? It's so cool.
I actually
you can build it yourself.
It's just because it's easier to manage than some awful bullshit. Well, it's still limited by Roll20.
When I played when I played in that campaign when I was at Mercy, Josh, Matt, you remember that?
Yes.
Where we would take up that back room in our building. What we would do is we had a projector. We would project the battle maps onto the whiteboard, and we would draw, and we could like plan out complex strategies on the whiteboard with each other.
Beautiful.
So it's like, I'll take the dodge action and run in. So they'll I have the most health, so they'll eat a bunch of damage here, and then you guys can flank around here. We actually, that is kind of wargaming.
Yeah.
Being like, we're gonna get this. Don't you fucking worry.
Yeah. That's that. I guess that's another way that we've influenced, D&D with wargaming is, a lot of our planning ends up being looking like a war game. If you're doing it a specific way.
If you're a very tactical player in combat, yeah. Or group.
Yeah, you can be grouped we like that one fucking encounter we had in our Sunday campaign where we spent about 30 minutes just planning out our first turn.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, because we had a lot of placeable AoEs that we could just put down so things wouldn't be able to fire at us with arrows.
Sure. And it worked.
It worked like a charm.
Yep. So, that's another thing. It's definitely influenced our way of playing, tabletop RPGs. TTRPGs.
I wonder if they're. I'm not even 100% as I'm thinking about this. I'm not even 100% how this would work. But I wonder if there is a war game that essentially uses like pseudo fictional positioning.
That would be so fucking difficult to keep track of.
Like,
yeah, that would be.
Well, like when I say pseudo, it would be sort of like zone
like
based.
a y-axis.
No,
so like the Star Wars games.
Kinda, yeah. That has to exist, right? Like rather, because I know Warhammer is very specific on the measurements. Like this unit can move 5 inches or whatever the fuck, right? So there has to be one that's a little more like sort of bubble zone based type like tactic, right? That has to be a thing. I'm not crazy, right? Someone has to have tried that.
No, I could see that.
I don't know what that would look like, but that must be a thing.
I could see it, like, but
trying to look at the
yeah, like I said, as I'm talking about it, I'm like, I don't know what that would look like, but it seems like a cool idea.
I'm trying to get an idea of what that would even look like, because you know when I think of war games, I literally think of like a crafted field.
Yeah.
So
you know, okay.
I don't know how they would do that. They would have to do it like range zones where every character
something
has
like
range
that. Yeah.
Zones.
Like how many zones away from yourself can you fire or something?
Oh, hold on. So there's a hex-based one called Combat Commander Europe, which is not like it doesn't have.
Yeah, Hexes. I know. Actually, hex-based. Speaking of hex-based war game, and you play HeroScape.
I think I did.
No.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. I think I know what you're talking about.
Let me show you a picture. I still have a bunch all my HeroScape shit. That was basically
I did play this.
Yeah, it's pretty sick actually.
Yeah. I remember my brother. I played like a few times with my older brothers, and I sort of got how to play. Well, when you're fucking 9, you never really understand.
It was pretty. Yeah, it was pretty complicated.
Like trying to play Risk when I was 9. Everybody. Like
we should totally play this game at some point.
I do have it.
I'd be so down to play.
Bro, they have 2 folding tables for this in this picture that I'm looking at.
Yeah, we're looking at the same picture. That's wild.
Yeah, I have a lot of the terrain and stuff too, because you would build your own terrain and shit.
Yeah. Bro, that's like a 12-hour venture, really.
It was long, but you know what's funny though? So it was long in terms of like compared to board games, right? But it was cool because it was essentially distilling Warhammer down to like, all right, what if you take a lot of the expensiveness out of Warhammer and you don't have to have your own army? It's just you have the person who has the game has a bunch of units that come with it. And it was like sort of shrinking in some of the, because Warhammer has a really high buy-in both monetarily and time-wise and shit like that. Yeah. So it was sort of shrinking that down and focusing it in, which was an interesting idea. And I think if I remember correctly, Isaiah, Warhammer basically made their own version of that idea anyway, right? Where they have like
kill team.
Yeah, so it was cool for that reason. It's that kind of zoned in, like it's still a time investment to play.
Yeah, but it's not.
But there's less meta time investment.
Just less investment.
Less out of game investment, more focused on the in-game investment.
Well, the out of game investment is like
I buy the thing. Buy the thing. Yeah.
I set up the map.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. I mean, yeah, we could play that.
But anyway,
I like board games. Genuinely, I will just play board games.
Same.
You could just be like, hey, we're gonna play this board game. I'm like, okay, and I'll sit down and learn the rules for about 2 hours.
All right. After some light Googling, you're talking like barrier of entry. A 2,000 point non-horde army should run you about $800. Bro, you could probably bump that up to like a G-bar with a horde army. So like Tyranids, Imperial Guard, orcs can be expensive.
Yeah, that's a bit much. It's a bit much for me.
Me here sitting going, man, I like playing horde armies.
Same.
I mean, like Skaven or my thing. Well, eventually I want to play fucking any of them, but Skaven of the army that I've been
It's rats. We are the rats.
working towards.
Rats. We are the rats. Anyway,
Now I'm just looking up fucking Warhammer data sheets. And just looking at all the wild shit that they can get. Like Yvrain, my girl Yvrain, leader of the Yanari.
Isaiah, we're not just here to talk about Warhammer.
I don't know. But okay.
It's another objective here. Sam, get him on a different path. Take him away.
No, but wait, hold on. I'm looking at points for rats.
Actually, I do have a question while you're looking up rats. So what made you decide on this topic today, Sam? War game.
I've literally just been thinking about Warhammer for the last week.
Oh, okay.
I've just been thinking about Warhammer.
Hell yeah.
I started playing the Total War game again because I have a problem.
Oh God, Total.
I've put a lot of hours into those games. And yeah, I don't know. I just like Warhammer. Still don't know if I like fantasy or 40k more. I think it really just comes down to that one has Skaven, one doesn't.
That's a very good point. One has Skaven.
So anyways,
wait. No, technically 40k does have Skaven. I can't remember what they're called, but they are
they a
in
fieldable
40K.
army?
It's not the same.
Nah, No.
Exactly. There you go.
But
Anyways.
dwarves have a fieldable army now, and they're the best army in the game.
I do hold a sense of pride in that one.
Have you heard about their really dumb fucking ability that makes them so busted?
Their grudge ability, basically.
Yeah. So, as you guys who have a very base understanding of Vermintide know, is that the dwarves, any slight is called a grudge, and they put it in a book of grudges.
Now that's a grudge.
Yeah. It's that's going in the fucking book. That's it. That's the grudge for the book. You fuck. So the League of Votann army, that's their main thing, is a grudge. So, and you can, basically every time that you put a grudge on a unit, enemies have a plus to hit them. And I think it stacks up to 3 times at the moment.
Cut him.
And it you can get a grudge for anything. You shoot at the enemy, that's a grudge. If you deal, I think, a mortal wound, that's a grudge. If you fire Overwatch, that's a grudge. And it just everything gets grudged, and then they get steamrolled. It's amazing. That and the big meme at the moment beside that is the Tau railgun that any bigger Tau mech can use, like the Riptide, and it can just one-shot anything in the game practically that isn't a knight. It can one-shot Primarchs. Because it ignores. So Warhammer units have this thing called an invulnerability save. Stronger units have this thing where if you do damage to them and you kill them, they can make a roll to see if they just don't die. You're just like, no, fuck you, I don't do it. Tau Railgun can ignore invul saves. So all of your special boys are just not special no more, and they take 13 damage, which is a lot of damage. That's like a Luda level of damage. So Gilliman, one shot. Magnus the Red, one shot. Martarian, get out of the bin. Just fucked. They just fucked.
Sure, me and Matt can pretend like we know who you're talking about.
Mortarion, he's the Primarch of the Death Guard. Big stinky Mothman. You were talking about him when we were playing Darktide?
That wasn't an invitation for an explanation.
That's a shame.
Sam, please move us on.
No. This is on brand. This is on brand for our entire conversation. Okay, all right. You're not going to like my moving on. So Clan Rats, a single unit of Clan Rats is 20, and that's 100 points.
So if you wanted to field,
you would need about 400 Clan Rats for a 2,000 point army.
Yep. Yep.
That's a lot of Clan Rats.
Yep.
Jesus.
Also, I like the Age of Sigmar board game rules. Wikipedia is called Wowpedia.
Yeah.
Just a little fun fact for you.
Oh, did I ever tell you? Okay, so this is a wargaming thing. This is sort of a general one. This is a weird. Why would you do this? Did I tell you guys about? I'm pretty sure I'm remembering this correctly. how the original Age of Sigmar initiative rounds worked?
No.
So, okay, usually you play a war game, right? Like you roll a die and whoever has the higher number gets, that's their turn, right?
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
Just
no,
like
that's not what they did. Yeah. So, you know, the way that every other war game goes, it's your turn and you have your turn phases and then your turn ends and then it's my turn. And then, you know, it's like turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, right? When we both go, that's a full turn. Age of Sigmar, that's not how that works. You want to guess how it works?
Is this some THATCO bullshit, but with initiative?
No, basically, it's so my turn goes, right? So Josh, you and me are playing Age of Sigmar. We roll it off, my turn goes. Okay, we go, I do my turn. Now it's not your turn. We roll again.
Oh,
so you lost. So cool. So now it's my turn 2, your turn 0. Oh, we roll again. Okay, it's your turn. Okay, cool. Oh, so you failed though, but it's my turn. So now it's my turn 3, your turn 1.
Bro, that's not okay.
No.
What the fuck?
No. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. They also they removed point cap on first edition Age of Sigmar.
Why?
I don't know. It's Age of Sigmar's initial release. As someone who doesn't play, AOS and did not play Fantasy, hearing the internet explode when AOS first edition dropped was some of the funniest shit. Because you just read you heard about the rules and you're like, no, surely not. And then you see one take and you're like, they must have misread this. And then 50 other people say it the same way. And you're like, okay, either these rules are not clear or this is wacky. And people would just show up and flood the field with fucking, you're like, you brought like a 800 point army. Someone drops a 4,000 point army. That's the match. Good luck. Hope you roll real well.
Jesus
you
Christ.
Won't. Not well enough.
No.
This is an excellent lesson in how to not do initiative in your game. If you're thinking about changing the way initiative works in your game, don't do that. Not that just one. Don't. That ain't it.
Just don't do it.
Just don't do it.
I mean, you can change it, but not that way.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of rolling for no reason too. Like that's just taking time away. That is a lot of rolling. Yeah,
that's like
it's
an excessively amount of wasted rolling time.
Like imagine you're playing a card game, because this is essentially the equivalent. You're playing a card game like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh, and every single time it's time for someone to take their turn, you roll a die and decide that way. Or a coin toss or rock, paper, scissors. Like that is ridiculous.
Yeah,
don't do that.
I would love.
That's really mean.
I would love to sit down with the designers and be like, what were you hoping?
What were you thinking?
What was no. Not what were you thinking? What was the intended? Because when you design a mechanic in a game, right, you have an intended result you're going for, like an intended feeling, right? So, for example, Shadowrun has you reroll initiative every round to sort of, imply the chaos of the fight, right? That's sort of the intention. Does it work? Up for debate, but that's the point. What was the intention with that logic in Age of Sigmar? That's what I want to know.
Because I don't like. I'm pretty sure there's no they have no initiative modifiers because that's a turn, and it would be really basically people would just play the armies that would have the best bonus to go first, essentially. I
can't think of the idea.
For a war game, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway,
I think they also the Space Marines of Fantasy, they were called Stormcast Eternals. I think they just couldn't die. I think they could they had the resurrection protocol that Necrons had. I think.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they did. Isaiah, the guy who's never played this game, is like, no, these are totally rules. Yeah, 100%, 100.
My opinion is fact.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an opinion. It's my potential remembering of the rules.
Which statement is fact?
How much better?
I'm looking at it now. Eternals.
So why are the orcs the best 40k army to play as?
They're not, but they should be.
Wait, the orcs?
Yeah.
You just have fun when you play orcs.
Yeah, they're a fun time.
You can't be a salty orc player. Like, you can't be a toxic orc player. It doesn't really exist, because orcs are so trash at their ranged combat. Like, you know, most enemies, it's like, oh, you have to, like, if you roll like a 4 up, right? So if you roll like a 3, 4, 5, you hit, or you roll like a 2 up. Sorry, you make the shot, whatever. Orcs roll on they hit on a 4 up. Or is it a 5 up? Basically, they have like, you hit or you miss. There's
they have a shittier hit percentage.
Yeah. So you either are going to roll like a god some games and you're just gonna light motherfuckers up, or you are going to miss the side of the barn and the farm and the county that the farm is on. You're just not gonna hit
basically
anything.
Just firing into the air.
Yeah, yeah. But when orcs get into melee, it gets a little wild. Like the 2 or 3 games I played against orcs. I was playing Ultramarines because it's the only army my friend had. And I had like a squad of initiate snipers in like a little base area that I had in the back of my area, and I could just lay down a hell on the fucking orcs from range. And when I could hit them with Overwatch from like this little vantage point I had as they were coming in, and they charged and they fucking stormed my little pillbox and they destroyed me. They just drowned me in hits, and I was like, I can't, what do I do? And he was like, die. And I went, oh, okay. I could be salty about this, but I'm not. This is actually pretty funny.
Power of the Waaaghing.
Yeah, that is an ability they have. It's literally called Waaaghing. And the friend I had, you better believe, he screamed it every single time. Yeah, yeah. And I was like, oh, you gonna? Yeah. He's popping his Waaaghing. Okay, okay. Apparently that's a thing.
So that ability for Stormcast Eternals is called the Reforging. Instead of being removed the unit from your order of battle, you can say that they will be reforged instead. If you do so, that unit loses D3 renown points. So it's basically they just lose renown as a hero. That's it. They just get back up.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, I see.
Interesting.
Wild.
Yeah.
We'll just say.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. Well, yeah, after reading all that, I'm still really just confused about the whole initiative thing. You know, they really said, hey, listen, we have this initiative thing in other games. You know, we've kind of just perfected it for a 2-player game. You know, just whoever, you know, rolls better goes first in the turn order. Let's get rid of that. And let's make it much worse.
Let's make it really random.
Like, if it was player 1 goes, player 2 goes, then you re-roll, that would make more sense.
That's slightly better.
Then player 1 rolls, he goes first. Player 1 rolls better, he goes first. And then you just have basically just a chain of player 1 going. And they don't even have like a thing where it's like, oh, player 2 will go eventually. It's just whoever rolls better. That's insane. Glad they looked at other games and said, you know what, we're going back to that old one.
You know what? Never mind.
This seems a little silly. Yeah, okay. This is kind of a random question, and I knew this would be that this is the divisive one because only half of us have actually played like an actual war game that like in the realm of 40K. You know, HeroScape, I guess we can include in that. But
yeah, I'd count HeroScape because there is from what I remember, way back, there was like a pretty decent level of like strategy you had to maintain.
Oh no, it's pretty complex, yes. But also, I played it a long ass time ago.
Yeah.
Not gonna count it.
Opinions may be somewhere out there.
Actually, okay. All right, real quick, this is a quick segue. I'm sorry, I know you want to change subject. We're talking about Risk. When I was in high school, when I was like a sophomore in high school, which was about 10 years ago, actually. Now that I think about it, there was this period of time where me and 3 or 4 other people played Risk all day, every day for like a month straight. Just straight up a month. And if we weren't playing, I would be at a friend's house watching him play and helping him strategize. And it would just, it was ridiculous. We went so hard being like, okay, so they've moved into this area. So, but if we can maintain this, we can ignore this other part right here. But we know that our other friends coming in from the other side because they've got more territory than we do.
Is this like a over the summer thing you would do?
Partially.
How did you play when you were in school?
You just didn't do homework. You just went home and played Risk until like midnight, and then you went home, went to bed, went to school, went and played more Risk.
Monkey behavior.
Understandable.
We also had one game of Monopoly that went for a week straight. Same idea.
Monopoly's not even a good game. Get the fuck out of here.
Incorrect, but okay.
Bro, I have a deep hatred of Monopoly.
What?
I deeply hate Monopoly.
Pain.
I get bored after the first hour.
Yeah.
I think we've mentioned this before, though. Why do you hate Monopoly?
We don't have enough time to go into it right now, Matt.
Okay, so I'll just simplify it really quickly. Every single game of Monopoly ends the same exact way.
Not what I was going to say, but that's another reason, yeah.
It always funnels into basically the same game, and it's usually just between 2 people of them sitting there for hours.
It's a poorly designed game.
It's a poorly designed end game, is really what it is. Like, the mid game is okay. The beginning of the game is probably the best part. But after you hit like late mid game, it starts falling apart because it's there's no good way to end that game unless everybody's cooperating.
We're not talking about Monopoly, Sam. Get us out of the pit. You could do this. I believe in you.
My usual idea is we play long enough till someone doesn't want to play anymore, and I go, hey, I'll buy your territory off if you want to quit, and they usually let me have it, and then I have most of the map, and I go,
that's what I mean. That
is not what we call good game design, sir.
No, it is not, though.
It's the opposite.
Either way. So we've talked about influences. Now let's talk about what we wish would be influenced, because we've seen definitely some combat influence. Because listen, if we didn't have Gary Gygax planes, more games we wouldn't.
If
have
Gary wasn't a World War II nerd,
yeah, like or chainmail nerd, if you want to go that far.
I think he was just a history guy. I remember.
I mean, it's also possible.
Nothing wrong with
that.
But
like we probably wouldn't be here talking about rolling dice. We might be talking about flipping coins.
Oh God! Actually, fun fact: do you know what they did before they had the D20? About this, Sam?
Did they flip coins?
Please.
They did not flip coins. They had little cardboard like discs with numbers on them, and they threw them in a sack and pulled a number out of the bag.
Yes, I remember reading that in that fucking Matt.
Yeah.
So Matt, he's bringing up that like history, like the Arcana thing.
Yes. Yeah.
That book is fucking massive. Did you know that?
So
yes,
it's such a good book.
It's like 13 inches long by 3 inches wide.
Yeah.
By like 9 inches thick. Or sorry, 9 inches wide by like 3 inches thick. It's huge. Fucking massive. And it's got like diagrams and these like fucking centerfold posters and shit. It's crazy.
It's a deep dive.
I've never finished reading it. I got like 3/4 of the way and went, oh.
I've just
probably nobody has.
No, I've never read it like cover to cover, but I've always skimmed, stop, I'll read a good chunk every time I pick up the book. It's just so cool.
Yeah, probably no one has finished it. But yeah, they used to pull like cardboard coin thingies out of a bag, which I don't know. That might, I don't know. That could be potentially more random than a D20. Maybe
kind of is,
right? It's an interesting thought. I don't know. Like, I mean,
so there's no weight behind it.
Yeah, it's not weighted.
There's no table influence.
There's no table. Yeah, like
it literally just depends on the person grabbing it.
Grab it, shake it up, grab it again. Like I don't know. It's
do you like take out the once a number is pulled, is the number out of the bag permanently, or you have to?
No, you would put it back in because it's a D20. It represents the D20 test, right? So you would put the number back in every time.
There is a way to
there's a way to game that, yeah.
Yeah, you just mark one of the tokens and go, oh look, I nat 20'd again, and then
no, because you wouldn't. The point is you don't look. You stick your hand in blind.
You can still feel around.
The
only way that you
physically mark it.
The only way that you could really get around
tamper with
that is be like, look, the first coin you touch, that's the coin you take. Like you don't have you literally just go and grab one. That's it.
Well, that's kind of hard to unless you're like, okay, you have 3 seconds to pull one.
Right.
Like you could potentially get somewhere doing that, but I could see someone just like, every time they pull something above a 15, you mark one side, and if every time you pull something below an 8, you mark 2 sides, so you can immediately go nope, yeah. You get into some like Kakegarui level shit.
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, I don't know. I thought I don't know why they did that, because
cheaper.
The D20 existed, as far as I'm aware. Like it's not like D&D invented. So I don't know, but interesting idea.
Interesting thing to research.
Yeah. But damn it, the sentence lost me again.
The D20 system is a role-playing game system published in 2000 by Wizards of the Coast.
Oh, so they
originally developed for 3rd edition of Dungeons and Dragons.
What?
No. The old editions of the game used a D20. The D20 system is a specific thing. It's not. It's not.
I was about to say, I don't.
No.
What the fuck? Why did I react to it like that? I remember them being like,
"Oh, you can." Thing is just very funny.
The D20 system was essentially its own RPG system that got OGL'd. That's why there's Star Wars D20. That's why that exists.
Yeah, so I don't know why I fucking reacted like that, because I remember them like in Advanced, you could do like the mail order things to get your special D&D dice, and they were like these awful fucking cast molded dice that looked like they just looked like shit. They were so bad looking, and apparently the ink, like the little paint in the numbers, it didn't come that way. You had to do that.
Wait,
which is wild to me.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Wait, what?
So apparently the earliest D20 was invented in the 1960s by the Japanese Standards Association.
Yeah, so
there's
before
a set of 3s is red, yellow, blue, and numbers 0 to 9 twice on each die. Ooh, I don't like that.
Maybe they just, I don't know. Maybe Gary didn't know about those.
Possibly. Apparently, the earliest known dice goes back to Turkey.
Yeah, the classic D6, I'm sure, is fucking ancient.
The actual D20, I think we have evidence of that being around in like the early centuries of AD in India.
I mean, it says it was invented in Japan.
D6 was pre 5000 BC. Because knucklebones.
Oh.
I don't know why I didn't think about knucklebones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was like, not earlier. I was like, yeah, knucklebones. Stops thinking.
Oh, here we go. Here's the original D&D dice. You can actually see them, people like painted in.
Those are ugly as hell.
Yeah. Do you see them? They literally painted in with an ink wash the numbers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Those are cheap looking.
I'm literally not surprised by this. Egyptians and Romans were the first recorded people to make
that makes
D20s.
sense.
Yeah. Well, because it's a what is it? A D20 is a dodecahedron, right?
Fuck if I.
D20 dice shape name.
We're giving you all a history lesson instead of talking about my topics. It's fine. I like history.
It's called an icosahedron.
Jesus. All right.
Oh no, a dodecahedron's a D12. I'm an idiot. It's 2 plus 10. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Goddamn math rocks.
Sag.
Math rocks go click clack.
Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about, Sam?
Yeah, of course. So like, as I was leading us into, they've both in like tabletop RPGs and war games have influenced each other a lot. There's some very distinct differences between them. Like obviously role playing is a very, very distinct difference between, a war game and a tabletop RPG. Except you can kind of argue that the way that you play your armies in a tabletop game is based off of the characteristics of the faction that you're playing, which is technically RPing, because like, you wouldn't play most Tau like you're gonna go into melee combat because they're just kind of bad at that.
Well, you would also you're sort of role playing a commander, right? So you could
exactly.
If you wanted, you could kind of get into that role play vibe too of like the boss of the army.
Yeah.
The difference is the objective, quote unquote.
Yeah,
is not
in wargaming. You're just fucking around.
Yeah, you're not playing the game to role play.
Yeah, in D&D you have some sort of purpose to your character.
Yeah.
I know Pathfinder recently they just updated their Kingmaker campaign. It's basically, and they have a 5e companion.
It's like a 4 that's like a 4X game though, Matt. That's not.
No, I know.
It's not exactly the same.
Well, no.
There's using the phrase 4X game. I don't actually know what
4X
that means.
Wait. We will get to that, but what Matt, I think Matt's talking about the adventure path, not the video game, because they made an adventure path.
No. I'm aware.
That
I'm
is
aware.
the same as Kingmaker.
I'm saying that those games are you manage a a kingdom.
Yes.
So it's kind of like a 4X game. You're just controlling the unit of characters that go around doing
I thought it was like
exploration and extermination part.
Because I thought that was also building up a kingdom part of it.
Well, there is, but what Sam's saying is you don't actively participate in the war component so much as you just manage.
Yeah.
Which is like a 4X game.
So a 4X game, 4X literally stands for like it used to be called XXXX game. Then they were like, oh, triple X is pornography, so we're going to change it. So they made it 4X.
Expand, exterminate,
explore,
exploit.
They're basically strategy games where you manage a country, kingdom, whatever, and you gather resources, create an army, kill other things, and expand your territory.
Civilization.
Gotcha. Civilization's the best.
War. Endless space.
Total War is a little bit different because it's a combination of 4X and a war game.
Yeah, true.
Just because
what's that? Solar Empire? No, was it
Stellaris?
4X game. Civilization's the one.
Yeah.
But Civilization, in comparison to some other 4X games, is baby shit. Because some 4X games
the most
get
basic thing.
Absurd with their level of detail.
Like Stellaris allows you to change out the way that your ships are built. You give them specific platings, you give them specific weapons.
Some of them
do
get
all of this stuff.
So complicated.
Yeah, some of them are just not really worth learning because of the amount of time investment. It's just crazy. Like I've been asked to play like Stellaris, for instance, and I'm like, that's a big time.
It's like a life investment. It's your fucking part-time job.
I'm like, I already play Total War. I don't need another.
Yeah. Some of them get like just so needlessly complicated. It's not my genre. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I do like a level of complexity to my games, but it's
a lot.
It depends on which one you play. They're not all like that, but some of them.
I know.
Eventually, you'll just be like, "Oh, I know what the good thing." Like you just look it up.
Yeah, I was gonna say not everything is fucking EVE Online, but like
no, EVE is spreadsheet simulator.
EVE is a whole other. Yeah, EVE is.
Why do I feel like you love EVE, Sam?
The difficulty is getting into it.
Yeah,
I've tried.
Yeah,
that's the thing. If I really wanted to, I could probably get into EVE.
Take out a loan and get a part-time job in EVE.
That's the motivation factor that I just don't have for it.
I don't understand how anyone. How? How?
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway,
we're getting a lot into the video game influence of board games and vice versa today. That should have been the topic. Okay, so to bring us back into the topic, I'll pose my question again. So, what would you like to see in war games implemented into tabletop games and vice versa? Like, you know, we could be talking about literally like hero character sheets. We'd be talking about mass combat rules, because let's be honest, a lot of games don't have very good mass combat rules. Looking at you, 5th edition. And kind of need things to be worked out. Some games are a lot better. Some games, you know, use fictional positioning. We were talking about fictional positioning in tabletop, the Wargaming. Or, you know, we could be like, oh, I want to see that. You know, because my answer to this is I wish there was a better way to implement mass combat into TTRPGs. It's sometimes it's good. Sometimes you just roll with a squad mechanic, which is basically what, you know, war games are. They usually have a squad as a unit or a swarm as a unit. Like Star Wars did that, I know, for instance. But like D&D, it's pretty fucking bad.
Yeah, so I'll answer this in like a twofold. So for one, right, the common sense answer I feel like I want is not common sense. The more grounded one that I want is more tactical positioning. I want there to be a reason for characters to have fucking 300 feet of movement. I want there to be a reason that like the dragon can fly, and that's more interesting than it just doesn't land and murders you with its breath weapon, you know?
Yeah.
The more the ideal that I want is terrain. I want terrain to matter more. And like there are some games where it matters, and there's some games where like you can sort of cheese it, right? Like I don't know, a Powered by the Apocalypse game, for example. The terrain is what you make of it, right? Like the terrain is what the narrative dictates the terrain is. So if you're fighting in the trees, there's sort of some like narrative things that go into like, oh well, you know you might, if you get like a partial success, there's a chance that you might fall, and if you do fall, you might have to make a defy danger check. So there's that, but like you can't really gamify that. You can't really take advantage of it in like a what's the word I'm looking for? A codified way.
Mechanical by the number.
Yeah.
There's no numbers involved. The advantage of the terrain in a fictional positioning based game is the fictional advantage that terrain would give you in real life. There's no hard numbers coded to the advantage of the terrain.
Yeah.
So the advantage of being in a tree in Dungeon World when you're trying to kill the goblin below you is you're in a tree and the goblin is not in a tree. You can shoot down at him, he cannot shoot up at you. But there's no numbers to like represent that. It's literally just the fictional implications of what that means.
I would kind of want it in the vein of like Fire Emblem. And I know I think only me and Sam have played those games, but it's pretty simple. So like you have obviously you have different kinds of maps. You have terrain areas. So you have plains, forests, mountains, water, buildings, and I'm missing something. I know I am. Not sand. There's a different sort of terrain, and each one does a thing. So if you're in plains, that's pretty much what it sounds like. That's just normal flat ground. Anyone can move there. You have no inhibitions, but no boost to your movement speed. Forests, depending on the game, cavalry units can't go into forested areas, obviously, right? Because you have to maneuver through the forest. It's really hard to fight there. But if you're in forested areas, it's harder to get shot with ranged attacks because you have the trees there to defend you. Water, your movement is obviously just slowed because it's hard to move through water. Mountain, only flying units can go over mountain areas, so anything with like a fly ability. And then there's actually things that go into like, if you're in the air, you're easier to get shot with arrows. So all aerial units are super weak to bows, but they often are a bit better against magic. Whereas, you know, super armored enemies like generals and knights are super weak to magic, but basically can't be touched by a bow. I want that. More of it anyway. Because there are some games that do have it, but like not the way that I want it.
Mm-hmm.
D&D has some of what you said.
Some of it, yeah, but like I want more.
But also, a lot of that stuff you're talking about is a mechanic representing effects. The mechanic is representing the effects of terrain on a fight, but that fight is on a large scale, which is to say two armies or two platoons at the very least coming up against each other. Mm-hmm. A lot of that wouldn't work in something like D&D because you're so zoomed in on the action of it's a couple of dudes versus a couple of dudes. So like the idea that, oh, the cavalry can't go in the forest, that doesn't really work in D&D because we're so zoomed in that we're not looking at the forest, we're looking at a section of the forest and you can physically see where each of the trees are. So some of those just won't work.
Yes. Well, it depends on the size of your map because like you can have like, I think the biggest map I've been in was 50 by 50. And there's a lot of room for terrain in those. And obviously that was like a large scale pseudo dungeon kind of map. But there was things where it's like, it wasn't like a big forested area with chunks of trees. So if it was
but
like,
you're still focused in more than in something like Fire Emblem. So you can't like, it would be really weird if you plopped in D&D, if you plopped your token in the middle of a like cusp of trees. And then the DM was like, cool, this enemy monster just can't go in that group of trees to attack you because you have tree protection, even though you could potentially see on the map their space is like, it doesn't really work the same.
No, I get what you're saying. I still want it. Or something in the vein of it. Something that makes movement more necessary and things don't just
I think you're looking at
in
it
the same spot.
Yeah, I get what you're saying about things not standing in the same spot, but I think you're taking the wrong inspiration. Fire Emblem doesn't represent quite the same thing, so it's kind of hard to apply it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I don't know. I still think there are things you could take from that idea.
You can take the premise.
Using Fire Emblem is that Fire Emblem is actually just about you got 8 dudes and they're fighting another like 15 dudes, and all of these terrains still have effects on them, even though they're supposed to be a very large piece of map. So it just doesn't translate very well. It's like the whole, oh, this person's a 5x5 cube or 5x5x5 cube. That's really weird. D&D. That's I think the main problem with translating it to a board game. Mentally, it just doesn't make fucking sense.
Yeah, I suppose.
Like, I think there's a way you could work it, but you know, if you're doing a one-to-one translation, it's not exactly the best.
No, and I wouldn't be wanting to use a one-to-one translation, but there is something to say about like, this has good ideas, and I would like to see some of those ideas moved to like.
I absolutely would like to see, more reason for a character to move other than, I am caster and I wish to be out of melee range of thing that hit me hard. You know.
Yeah.
I am ranged boy. I use the Misty Step to get away. Ooh, Misty Step. You know, cursed words.
I hope in whatever the one D&D's nuts fucking thing, if they ever do have a like Wargaming rule, I'm just still gonna call it that. I'm sorry, I can't.
It's actually annoying me now, which is impressive.
I'm sorry, it's funny.
It so much.
I don't like the name. I really don't like the name.
Beat the dead horse into a pulverized bloody pulp on the floor. It's not funny anymore.
Nah, it's still funny to me.
It's still funny to me.
It was a horse at one point. There's a horse no longer.
Yeah, it's good. But because I know like in the DM's guide they have the the mob rules and all that, but not like a lot of war rules. and I told you guys this, one of the campaigns I wanted to run was the Ebron Oracle War. And towards the end of the campaign, like the players are level 17, there is a massive war battle that goes on. And they even have the little brackets, like this little subtext, box text, where they're like,
box text.
They're like, this battle offers Wargame Light rules for resolving this conflict. And it like makes it very, it's 5e war game rules. It's very simple, it's straightforward, and I think it works. It's like, you have each army has certain counters or tokens or whatever the hell. Then you have your armies, and then your adventuring party specifically is its own even smaller token. And while the battle is going on, your party, either people are separated, your players are sticking together. There's not like Legolas is going to go off and help, that army. Gimli's going to go off and help that army. It's like, no. So you guys stick together or you're going to get lost and you're probably going to get trampled to death.
I mean,
and then it's like, moving the party, moving your allies, moving the enemy, and then resolve any conflicts, and then resolve any party combat if the party is fighting, in an army battle. And then rinse and repeat. And it's like super easy.
I would like, so that, yeah.
I'll send you guys but it's very good. And I think, hopefully 5e or 5e, 6e, whatever the fuck, like they take this Adventure League module and they use that for building like a war game light or some sort of war game like tactics. Cause I know, like MCDM did the Stronghold and Follower rules. They did Kingdoms Warfares. Even like, I know I suck at reading, but even I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot.
They won't.
I really want to try those rules, but
they won't.
You don't think they would add, like they would implement some sort of like squad level combat?
No,
I don't think so.
They're not going to. They're not going to touch it. It's
too niche.
No, it's I can't even think of how. It's like whatever the opposite of like your white whale is. It's just one of those things they've looked at and they're like, this is not what our game is about. There's no point in us trying to make the game about it. We are not focused on it. We're just not going to even try to touch it. Other people can figure it out if they want. We're not touching it.
I actually wonder because
if they were gonna, they would have already.
Well, I wonder now because the Dragonlance adventure just came out, and that's all
what
about
did they do,
war.
Matt?
I wonder if there's something in there, maybe.
No. Do you know what they did for the Dragonlance adventure? Made an entire other game.
Wait, what? Oh, the board
game. They literally say in the Dragonlance adventures to do the fights, to do the wars in this adventure, play the Dragonlance board game. They literally say, pause your campaign, play the board game, come back to your game.
About the board game.
No, I'm 100% serious. That's what they did.
So they said, okay, buy and play this other game.
Yes. What they said was, when you get to the parts in the adventure where a battle happens, if they didn't say you have to, but if you want to do the battle and play it out and see what happens, play the accompanying Dragonlance board game. And I believe they also gave you rules to how you can implement your player characters, I think. And
I think so.
Hold on.
The NPCs in the adventure, I believe, are present in the board game. So by the fact that they did that is pretty clear they're never going to try and put any kind of wargaming mechanics in D&D. And you know what? Hot take, I don't want them to. I do not want wargaming mechanics in my D&D.
It's on the, if your campaign is like, this is like, okay, again, for the Eberron thing, this is the only time this happens. So I'm fine with it, like, you want that big Lord of the Rings end fight. Like, that's fine.
Here's my thing.
If you're doing a whole campaign like that, like, good on you, pal. Like, holy shit.
Here's my thing. For me, it comes down to two situations. There's two ways you handle it. Either you do what they did with Dragonlance, because I actually like that decision that they made with Dragonlance. I think that was a great idea because it's optional. It's not forced. And it's cool and a good idea because having a dedicated board game for that purpose makes things a lot easier than trying to shoehorn in wargaming mechanics onto your existing game. So either my two options I want to see is make me a separate game / a separate, I guess you could sort of make a separate mini game within your tabletop game. That's
like
an option.
net hacking and stuff. Like it's a
Sort
mini
of,
game
yeah.
in the board.
What I consider when I'm like, oh, give me wargaming in this game, just make it a mini game. Don't make it the
There's
main
a little
mechanics.
bit of that, yeah. But you can either I want a separate game, or the way I'm going to handle war in my D&D games. The war is going on. We're watching what the players are doing during the war. We're going to focus in on the little individual battles the player characters get involved in. I, as the GM, maybe I'll do some background stuff for the greater war, but we're not all playing in the greater war, right? Because you're focused. I want to have the scene of, if I'm doing a war, right? If I'm doing Helm's Deep, I'm not having the players roll for all the nerdy elves who get dunked on the wall and all the fucking orcs that like explode and run into. No. I'm looking at Legolas and Gimli and say, all right, players, what are you doing? Oh, we're talking shit to each other while we kill a couple of orcs. All right, let's roll initiative, have them fight like 4 or 5 orcs. Go back to the major war, do a little thing. What's going on? Hey, Aragorn, what are you at? Oh, I'm over on this part of the wall fighting a different group of dudes trying to get the bridge up or down. I forget what he was doing, but you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bridge up, yeah. All right, we're going to do a fight. Aragorn, you're being attacked by like 3 orcs. We're zooming in on this little skirmish while you're trying to get the bridge up. You kill the dudes. NPCs on the background are getting the bridge up. You succeed in the fight. They get the bridge up. That's how I do it. If I'm going to do a war scene, I'm just going to zoom in on what the player characters are doing.
I think that's what most people end up doing.
Yeah,
at least when it comes to like D&D, Pathfinder, whatever.
I'm just
like,
not. For me, the platoons of dudes like smashing heads into each other is not interesting. I don't care what they're up to. They're set dressing as far as I'm concerned.
Once. That's why I'm like, I really like the Eberron thing, because it's once. It's never coming up.
Even
and
then,
the fun thing, the players get it's also you get the players involved with it. You give them an army, you give them a platoon.
Well, the
whatever.
players are involved if you're focusing on what their characters are doing.
Well, yes, but like you get them now more so because like it's the same thing where like in the Matt Colville video where he gave the one player running an NPC goblin who's fighting the players. It's like letting the players also control the board and run the game a little bit, and it's like, oh, well, now I'm controlling an army. It's like, oh, yeah, what I actually do and say matters in the big army, not just my players.
But what I'm talking about with the Helm's Deep scenario, everything the PCs, in this case Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn, God damn it, do matters, right?
Oh yeah.
So the way you make it relevant is the stuff that the PCs are doing are the big things that sway the direction of the war or battle.
Oh yeah, I know.
But if I don't know, if I want to do the like platoons of dudes smashing into each other, I'm just gonna play Warhammer. Is my mentality, you know? I'll just play a war game that's about that. I don't.
No, well, I get that. I get what you're saying. I don't know. I for me as a player, this has actually come up before where it was like, oh, players. There's going to be a big war thing going on. You're going to have like a squad. Each of you is going to have like a specialty squad of dudes. So like my character was the long range guy. So I got like a squad of sharpshooters. And then the other guy was like the stealthy guy. And they were like the deep strike rogues. And then we had like the big mage caster dude who has just got like they're just a bombard squad, you know? We didn't get to control the squad. We didn't get to like give them orders. They just did their own thing while we were at separate points in the map. So it just sort of felt weirdly disjointed. And I feel like if you could, if you could set your squad to like fire or to pick specific targets and have that like affect the battle to be like, oh, well, the deep strike teams, there's like a squad that's going to intersect them. And if they get held up, they can't do the thing. You can fire at them. It would, I don't know. I feel like that would elevate the game a little bit.
But that's fine, because that's really, at the end of the day, that's just a modification of what I was talking about. Right? You're still zooming in on what the players are doing. You're still focusing on the PC characters in the fight. And then they're the commander of the like art, your ranger's the commander of the archer units. We get into the fight. All right, Ranger, it's your turn, initiative, do your thing, blah, blah, blah. All right, once your turn is over, what do you say to your squad? What's the order you give, right? And then that will influence the battle. That's essentially just a modification of the thing I was talking about. So that's fine. Doing it that way, I think, is totally viable. like sort of you focus on the player characters, and then also the player characters have influence over like a chunk of units or a section or whatever. I think that's a fine way to do it. But that's not a full-blown war mechanic. You know, the full-blown, like, honestly, what's it? Kingdoms and Warfare that MCDM put out. I looked in that and I'm like, there's probably some cool ideas in there, but I have zero interest in that. Like, just, I do not care. You know what I mean? Because specifically, Matt Colville said when he designed that, or when they were working on that, there are no rules, zero rules for how the player characters can affect the units in the fight. Because he specifically said, oh, if you want to have your player characters affect the units in a fight, then what you want to do isn't a war game. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. So I don't want that book then. You know what I mean? Now, granted,
yeah, I can see that.
There's other stuff in the book like monsters and shit too, but that's beside the point.
Well, yeah, well, I think that the Kingdom Builder one is the one that I was more interested in.
That's what I'm talking about.
Like, yeah, like having factions and shit, especially if you want to have like a more politically focused game. You can, like, the fact that you can gain favor with factions and you can do things.
Well, that's
for
all
them.
strong. That's strongholds and followers.
The strongholds, yeah, and the strongholds and
Warfare
followers. They do have a warfare light rules in that book. And then Kingdoms and Warfares is like, all right, here's the heavy hitter.
Yeah.
Here's the giant fucking book of warfare.
The warfare rules and the warfare rules and strongholds and followers were basically the beta test for the Kingdoms and Warfare rules.
I have strongholds and followers, and the faction stuff that we got in there was not really what I wanted.
That's where Kingdoms of Warfare picks up. Because it's like, here's a bunch of factions and armies and stuff for your warfare. Here's the warfare rules. Here's the light warfare rules. And then if you want to expand upon that, get more decks, because each army is based on a deck of cards and stuff. That's when Kingdoms of Warfare is going to come out, and then we'll show you how to actually do the warfare, like real, like it. And the warfare rules are a whole board game. Like, it's literally a separate game.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I mean. The two methods, right? The board game or the zoom in on the PC method. I'm not really interested in playing the board game, so I just me no looky, you know. That's kind of that's what I was saying. That's why that book I was like not about. Although the Kingdom stuff, there might be something going on in there.
The Kingdom stuff was
the Kingdom stuff I might have
expanded on the stronghold rules.
Yeah,
and add more
that
armies.
I might like. But the war game part of it, I'm like, nah. No. Needs more lemon pledge.
Someone who's used the stronghold rules in the campaign, it was very fun. Players really loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, I also think the like retainers and shit are a cool idea.
Yeah, the retainers were great. Yeah.
I must have missed something in that book, because I wanted like a comprehensive way to do, like, oh, you do something for this faction, they enjoy it. These are like the things you get when you garner favor with that faction. I didn't find that in that book, so maybe
that's Kingdoms and Warfare. There's more factions in Kingdoms and Warfare. Yeah, there's more faction stuff. Strongholds and followers are, hey, you are a wizard. Hey, you are a barbarian. Hey, you are a rogue, whatever. This is what happens when you build up a kingdom or a stronghold or whatever. And then they have 3 separate rules for, like, are you building one for, like, are you building a temple because you're a cleric or a druid or whatever? Are you building like an actual like stronghold for warfare and stuff? Are you a fighter or a paladin or whatever? Are you a bard and you just want to build a fucking super swanky like nightclub? Like, and then those add rules and like ways to make money or get land or get army. And then you get special perks because of your class specifically. So like there was I think specifically like the warlock player, they got an extra spell slot because they're a warlock with a stronghold. And then on top of that, they get to roll every time they level up or every time the stronghold levels up, which empowers the stronghold, but also then the players get special perks. Like they get a special squad or they get a special super NPC. Like I keep bringing him up, Chris the Shadow Monk. When he rolled the first time on the stronghold rules, he got the a young Sapphire Dragon NPC was the party's ally. And the young Sapphire Drag would just live around the stronghold. Only helped when it felt like it, but he was really, you know, it was such an interesting NPC, and it has a bunch of that shit for every class: the monk, rogue, like all of them. Like if you're looking for more faction stuff, that's where Kingdoms and Warfare, because they actually built into like, do you want to be a thieves guild with a domain and all that shit? Do you want to be a wizard guild and, you know, have all this, like, these magic armies and shit? Do you want to be a fighter guild? Do you want to, you know, and all these different factions go in there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That would explain a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want the war game stuff necessarily in my game, but that doesn't mean I don't think there's any lessons to take from wargaming. I just think those lessons, I think the lessons that tabletop can use from wargaming is stuff that's more focused in, like Isaiah was talking about with the terrain. Those sorts of more like mechanics that you can apply to the small squad based structure of a D&D type game. I think that makes more sense. You know, but yeah, the like bigger, like war and battle focused mechanics. No, we don't need those. I'm good. At least for my 2 cents.
Fair enough.
Matt, you got anything for us other than the spiel you just gave?
No, I'm pretty good.
No.
What else, Sam? What else about war games and tabletop?
Well, I mean that's kind of the big question I had, honestly.
Oh shit, brother!
Influence that we can take and implement into either game. I think that war games definitely could have a little bit more of a. Well, it depends on the game, honestly. There are too many of them with too many different mechanics.
Because I'm assuming if you're playing like a World War II game, like is it like just whatever, it's like you're not really playing like the war general controlling the army, right? It's not like League of Legends where like you're the summoner summoning the guys. It's not like that, right?
I mean, that's kind of what all of them are.
Oh,
you're commanding troops in any war game.
Yeah,
you're the general or something equivalent.
Yeah, usually the term for Warhammer is you're called a warlord.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you are genuinely commanding like a section of an army, depending on the points that you use. That's another thing that war games. I don't know how much you know about it, but like war games use points for their armies. So every unit has a set of points, and then you just kind of spread those throughout. Most of the time you have a point limit on an army before you bring it into a fight. So like you can't walk up to a 2,000 point army game and be like, all right, here's my 3,000 point army, because then they'll just be like, dude, you're over. What's wrong with you? So yeah. There's a lot more that goes into wargaming pre-game than during the game. In terms of like
you have set
characters.
Up and, yeah. The pre-game build-up is a little wild.
Is a lot. Just setting up your army is more than building your character, because it's not one character you're focusing on. It's an entire army.
Yeah, paint everything. You build a terrain.
Well, not even just that. Like I mean, like some units have different weapons that they can choose. So like, for instance, Skaven clan rats. The unit is 20 clan rats, and that's 100 points right there. Clan rats have 2 different weapons that they can choose from. And everyone in the unit has to have them. You can either have swords or spears. So if you have 20 clan rats with, like you have this unit, you have to decide, this is when you're building it, whether or not they're going to have spears or swords. Like that's one thing that you have to really think about. Like special units, you kind of don't have to do that, but like units like clan rats or, I don't know, guardsmen, you have to choose what weapons they have before you even like build the army.
Yeah. You have to pick out their weaponry as you're building the model. Yeah. There are ways to cheese it. Like what people will do in 40K is you'll Dremel little magnets into the arms and into the torso, so you can actually interchange the body parts. So if you know you're going up against like someone's just rocking up with heavy armor, like tanks and shit, and you're like, oh, cool. My demolition squad now has like all melted like plasma guns and melta guns and crack grenades and shit, and you can just do that, assuming that you did enough pre-planning.
Yeah,
it's not considered cheating.
No.
Yeah, so there's a little bit more setup to your army than, you know, say a character in D&D, because you're not focusing on just the build of one singular person, one singular entity. You're doing several units of people, and you're taking into account like what you're going up against. A lot of people complain about Warhammer though, because your Warhammer is a good example, because when the meta changes, if you don't want to spend thousands of dollars on a new army, you know, you're going to be stuck playing against the meta unless you're playing casual games and, you know, with friends instead of competitive. Basically, competitive Warhammer is like competitive card games, but 10 times worse.
Yeah,
God, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, because what they do every edition, they'll put out
10,000 too.
Yeah, if you play competitive, what they'll do is every so often they'll put like every new edition they'll put out codexes, which are rule books, and you have to buy them. Even like, so they'll do like a faction rule book, right? So they'll do like a Space Marine rule book codex and like an Eldar codex. You're like, okay, that's cool, that's fine, this is awesome, and you'll have rules there. But then they'll put out sub-faction codexes, so you can get an Ultramarine specific codex. And then you'll get their successor chapters and like their heroes, and that's more rules and often updated rules. So you have to go, okay, well, I just bought this fucking book, now I gotta go buy this fucking book, and you buy that. They also, the thing that they've been doing, which people have been quite salty about, is they're basically building the models now so that you can't kit bash them. Like their bodies just are angled and positioned in such a way that you can't like, oh, I want this. I have a Black Templar Emperor's Champion model. It's like a warlord viable model for Black Templars. He has a Guardian Spear, which is a Custodes weapon, and you can't actually give them that. You can be like, oh, I've put this little piece on, and we're gonna call this like a Power Glaive, right? You can't do that anymore because they're making it so that you have to do serious modification to your bits, or you just can't. And also they're really cracking down on like proxy stuff. So you can't even do what I just said, right? You can't put a Guardian Spear on and be like, oh, I'm using this as a Power Glaive. They're like, nope, that's not tournament legal. You can't do that. It's getting crazy.
And I assume in a bid to get you to spend more money?
Yes.
Yep.
Are they still, like, after all the backlash and everything going on, are people still, like, playing the game, or there hasn't been a massive boycott or anything?
So, unfortunately, they kind of have people in a bit of a stranglehold, right? Because it's like, no matter what they do wrong, they will put out, like, box sets, and people buy those box sets pretty concurrently. So while they are bleeding money through like Warhammer Plus, which is not, it wasn't worth it when it came out, and I think it's barely worth it now. They're like, oh yeah, it's fine. We'll just put out a few more Space Marine box sets because everybody buys Space Marines, and we're not going to break even, but we will greatly lessen the damage. And now they're making even more money because they're doing 30K. And the crazy thing about 30K is that you get a bunch of shit that like you don't get access to in 40K. So like new tanks, new weaponry that like they've quote unquote lost since the Horus Heresy. You can play Primarchs now. You can get like non-chaos versions of all the chaos factions, and you can play with their champions before they went evil. And people eat that shit up.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I would eat it up too. Yeah. So like I can't even really talk. But yeah, it is Games Workshop. Okay.
It's like the Pokemon situation where like people still bought the fucking new game even though it had so many issues and problems with it.
Yeah.
It's outsold every other Pokemon game.
I literally saw a meme today, and not to bring up current topics too much, but the kerfuffle with 5e at the moment, right? there was like a post, and it was like a meme format that was like, oh, this company is fucking over the thing that I love, and it was the James Franco with the noose, and it just says Games Workshop, and it goes first time, yeah. It was literally that.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah,
hate it, but it's true.
Yeah.
Companies, why? We understand you like money, but like, why you want all of our money?
More money.
Why you want all of our money? We can't spend all of our money on one hobby. I say, I have definitely spent most of my money on like Magic when I was younger.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if we really, if we wanted, we could get into the fallacy that companies believe that money is just infinite, and you can just keep making more year over year, right? That's reasonable and possible. Yep. No problems.
No
there.
question. Just consume.
Yeah, and it's totally reasonable that a company will always just make more money. That's totally doable and believable.
Yep. Definitely.
No problems here.
Always what needs to be done, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So
well, before we get into that conversation, I think we had a good conversation about Wargaming and its.
Did we? That felt like chaos to me.
I felt like we got actually some good history in there. Like the middle section was, something.
That's our usual shtick.
Yeah.
I mean,
we talked about the history of Wargaming and its connections to TTRPGs. We've talked about, some of the ideas that TTRPGs and Wargaming have taken from each other, and how we could see some things implemented and other things.
I do have one
conversations.
One question before we close out. So like strategy video games like XCOM and StarCraft and Halo Wars, do those count like war games? Or
I'd say so. Yeah.
It depends on the war game.
Or strategy games their own.
So like Total War is absolutely a 4X war game. It has the war game battles, and then it has the 4X strategy portion as the overworld. XCOM is a little bit more focused.
XCOM is closer to D&D.
I was gonna say XCOM is like Fire Emblem and D&D, except with guns.
And Halo. I mean, Halo Wars is an RTS.
That's an RTS.
That feels like its own thing entirely.
Like yes and no.
Yeah,
that's the kind of the problem with RTSs. They're like,
I feel like their own vibe.
Because they're kind of an evolution of war games, is what I would say.
Yeah, sort of.
Because they take that same, mechanical aspect, but then they throw in, you produce the units as you're playing rather than you already have the army fielded kind of deal. So it changes up the strategy element. Much like, a Total War game has the 4X portion of the game that affects how you field your armies in the wargaming part. So it's just an evolution of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this has been the Sessions Canceled podcast. I'm really sad that Matt didn't do
podcast canceled.
Yeah. I'm really sad that Matt didn't do his orc bit for longer than 3 seconds.
This voice really hurts me throat.
You know what? That just sounds like a skill issue, my guy.
You know what? Work on it, Matt. Workshop it. We'll come back to it.
Yeah. We'll do that for our 100th episode special.
Matt, there's
it's the orc episode.
There's an actual play that I can send you where they did like an orc special, and not the unexpected one, the different one. And it was the funniest shit because one of them was playing Rambo. He's playing an orc commando, and they're basically Rambo. And commandos have this thing where they can basically teleport, because they're sneaky. And he was like, my character just sinks into the mud and pops up somewhere else. Or there's one bit where he turns around and he sees the commando there, and he turns to the other direction to look at the enemy, and he's stabbing the dude in the back with a chopper. And he's like, wait a minute, how did you get over there so fast?
Isaiah, you definitely got to run us through an orc Warhammer fantasy one shot or something. Wrath and Glory. One time.
Do they even
want to?
Do they even have rules to play orcs in that game?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Orc Weird Boys, there are special abilities called Da Jump, and it's just a mass teleport ability you can do. And if you fuck up, you just might summon Scarbrand. Like,
ah, damn.
Because you have this thing where, because, you know, orcs mob warp, the more orcs there are, the stronger the like smarter, more psychically powerful they are. So the more orcs you have around you, the better your psychic abilities get, but the more dangerous they become. And then you can do something called Cast Unbound, which makes it even stronger. So there was one bit in the actual play where there was like 30 orcs around them, and they like jumped all of them a stupid distance, and you're just like, Jesus.
Yeah, we're gonna end it there before we go on another little tangent.
A jump.
Thank you, Matt.
What a wonderful work.
Oh my God.
Yes, it's a good video. You know. Anyway, this is the plug-in bit. This is where we plug ourselves. Follow us on Twitter. You know, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell.
The subscribe button. No. No. Oh my God.
This just in, the bell doesn't exist anymore.
What?
When you go to someone's channel, if you click on the subscribe button, the subscribe button now has settings.
I hate that. Yeah. No, I genuinely, it's really bad because it turns it into a drop-down menu. So it's not just an unsubscribe button. Yes. You have to hit the button. Yes. It gives you a drop-down menu, and then you have to go and scroll down or go all the way down the list to hit unsubscribe.
I see that.
Yeah,
I hate that.
It's really annoying.
That's awful.
Listen, graphics design is by passion. It isn't.
It's not.
However, I do know a few things about UI, and literally mashing every button into existence into the same button is not a good idea. You are not a text editor. You are not OBS, where things need to be compact because you're looking at a bunch of shit. Like your YouTube, it's a channel page. You can have 2 buttons. It doesn't take that much. I think it actually takes more to have the drop down menu.
I like how on top of all the, you know, the Wizards drama on my YouTube timeline, the other shit I'm getting is YouTube just can't stop ruining itself.
So yeah, hit the subscribe button and then change your settings to notify you anytime we upload, because that would be real cool.
Also,
same thing with your favorite podcast platform, whether it's, you know, Spotify, Apple Pod. I don't remember
Apple Podcast.
Oh, it is Apple Podcast.
Just Apple Podcast,
I was literally just throwing that out into the air.
No,
I forgot what it was. Okay, they're very good at
your platform of choice.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, Twitter. If
you want to stay up to date.
Yeah, that's where we post most of our updates.
Unless it's 30 years in the future and Twitter's burned down, in which case,
I mean, who's to say that YouTube is around 30 years in the future?
True, I did jump a little far ahead. Maybe I should have said like 5 years. Anyway,
maybe next year. You know, never know. Who?
Goodbye. I am pressing the button now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, graphic design.
Incorporated.